History. The Cordwood construction technique, construction with firewood, is very old, even though today it may seem almost innovative. Its origins date back thousands of years, especially in places like Greece, but also in cold places like Siberia. There is no detailed information about the origins of cordwood construction. However, contemporary homes could have been built in Europe, Asia and the Americas. The technique had a brief period of popularity in the northern United States during the Great Depression, mainly due to its low-cost materials and ease of construction. Materials to use in cordwood construction. Wood cordwood construction uses tree trunks as the main material, cut to around 20 to 50 centimeters in length, depending on the width of the walls. This use can have a very economical aspect if trees from cleaning felling in densely wooded areas are used. More than 30 different types of wood can be used. The most desirable woods that are more resistant to rot are Pacific yew, bald cypress, cedars, and juniper. Airy, less dense woods are superior because they shrink and expand at smaller rates than dense woods, but regardless of tree species, all wood must be debarked before construction begins. Mortar. Various experts advise different recipes for mixing mortar. An example recipe might be made up of 9 parts sand, 3 parts sawdust, 3 parts construction lime, non-agricultural lime, and 2 parts Portland cement. Construction lime makes the wall more flexible and breathable because it takes longer to cure completely than cement. Thermal insulation. Good insulation depends on a variety of factors such as the thickness of the wall, the type of wood used and also the recipe or composition of the mortar. However, covering the space between the 2 layers of mortar, exterior and interior, of the walls also plays a very important role in the thermal efficiency of the interior of homes. The materials to be used in this coating can be very diverse and, depending on the builder's investment power, they can be more sophisticated such as glass wool, vermiculite, expanded polyurethane or, when a more economical and more ecological solution is desired, using simply sawdust, old newspapers or even straw. Costs. A cordwood home can be built with significantly less upfront cost than a standard, comparably sized log home if the work is done primarily by the homeowner with help from friends and family. If a cordwood wall is built competently, it will not only require less maintenance in the long term, but it can also be cheaper to build. If a cordwood home is poorly constructed and not sufficiently insulated, heating costs may be higher than in a traditional home. Construction process. The felling of the wood must be done in early spring and the bark must be removed immediately, using an appropriate tool. At this point the sap is still running and provides a layer of lubricant between the bark and the wood, making separation an easier task than leaving this work for later, when the 2 layers are already well connected to each other. After peeling, the trunks must be left to dry for at least 2 to 3 years. It is advisable that they be placed in the shade so that drying occurs more slowly and can avoid or at least reduce the incidence of cracks and twists in the trunks. It is also important that the logs are very dry to make a more perfect and reliable cut in terms of measurements, as wood shrinks a lot during drying, as we know. After drying, the logs must be sawn to the desired length, that is, cut to the width of the walls. The cuts must be very straight, and you should avoid using a chainsaw, as this tool makes a very thick cut. The logs must all be exactly the same size so that the walls are as perfect as possible. A circular or band saw can be used to advantage over a chainsaw, but the most important thing will be to make the cuts straight. This will also be the time for the builder to decide whether the house is to be built with whole pieces of change in their round form, or whether he intends to split them, or cut them into quarters, as is done with firewood for the fireplace. The foundations, made of concrete, must be above ground level by around 30 to 50 centimeters, and this part must, for a better appearance, be covered with chipped stone. To start a wall, 2 layers of mortar, approximately 6 to 10 centimeters wide, must be spread on top of the foundation, one on each side, with an empty space in the center that will later be filled with insulating material. Then the logs will be laid so that they are well accommodated and without large spaces between them to avoid using large quantities of mortar. The thinner the mortar joints, the better the appearance of the wall. The logs must protrude 1 to 2 centimeters out of the mortar, and the joints must be very smooth and perfect, not only for a good wall design, but also for better insulation and waterproofing. A cordwood house must have well-projected eaves to keep the walls dry and prevent the appearance of fungi. If the ends are kept dry and well ventilated, the trunks will age without problems. Some owners have coated their edges with linseed oil, or set the wall so that the logs are flush with the mortar for later waterproofing. Over time, it is normal for joints to expand and develop cracks, but these can be corrected with maintenance caulking. The cordwood construction method can be used both for the construction of small cabins and large buildings, although, in my personal opinion, this type of construction should be more inclined towards the construction of small country houses to be used during vacation periods. Small cabins in the forest, or agricultural support structures, but the truth is that there are also large and luxurious buildings built using this process. Although different types of trees can be used, it is in no way advisable to use wood that is already semi-rotted or even trees that are not very resistant to rot. It also doesn't seem very viable to use wood that is very prone to cracking, and this includes eucalyptus, which, although very durable, has this tendency. However, its use should not be completely ruled out due to it being a very abundant and low-cost tree. On the other hand, pine and poplar are trees with low thermal conductivity and are also very abundant, which could be a good option for cordwood constructions. A cordwood cabin or house is, in principle, much easier to build than a cabin or log house due to the use of very short and therefore lighter logs and the log fittings as in log constructions not being necessary. In this way, a cabin or a small house can easily be built by a few people or even by just one person. The owner's involvement in the construction will dictate the final price. In this type of construction, the builder can give free rein to creativity by alternating the laying with trunks of different diameters and from different trees, but, and this is once again just my opinion, the joints, in addition to being smooth and perfect, must be very small, so that the walls don't just look like concrete walls where some sticks have been inserted here and there. Some curiosities: this is the largest cordwood building in the world. It is in Guatemala and was recently completed. It is 95 feet, 32 meters, long and consists of classrooms, a commercial kitchen, a library, and dormitories for nearly 100 students. The use of solar energy is well taken care of in this beautiful house. Round construction seems to be a well-established option in seemingly more luxurious homes. When building with the cordwood technique, we can let our imagination run wild and only have the sky as the limit. Whether in the design of the house, which can be large or small, whether outside or inside the house, we can unleash our creativity and do very beautiful things, such as covering floors with wooden slices or building walls with stained glass using bottles. Good construction practices. Cordwood. Anyone interested in building a cordwood house, or even a small cabin, can obtain some information on Richard Flatow's websites, or even purchase some books that will guide the builder in this task. Richard Flatow and his wife, Becky, built their cordwood home in northern Wisconsin in 1979. Since then, the couple has written books, held workshops and organized conferences on the cordwood technique. They continue to provide consultation for builders and owners of homes built with this technique. When Richard and Becky built their home in Lincoln County, Wisconsin, in 1979, they were the first to build with firewood in the area. 4 decades later, there are 27 houses and other buildings built using the same process.